In this video, I'll explain step by step how you can build one of the easiest guitar pedals possible. The pedal I built is from this fuzz pedal kit from DIYguitarpedals.com.au. Even if you don't plan on building this kit, this video will give you a good idea what it's like to build a guitar pedal. This 7-minute fuzz pedal kit comes with a lot of instructions and information on how to mod the pedal, so it's a great starting point if you want to get into building pedals. If you've never built a guitar pedal before, I recommend starting with a kit like this one because it includes everything you need and you won't need to go hunting for components. This kit includes a 9-volt battery clip as you just saw and a DC power jack, which is what I'll be using. I'm using 2 mono jacks for this pedal because I won't be using the battery. This is a standard 3-pole double throw foot switch, which is what you'll be using in most guitar pedals. You can tell the type of switch from the number of connectors. A 3-pole double throw switch has 9 connection points. This single pot will be used to control the fuzz level in this pedal. And I'll be using a blue LED, which will go in this black bezel. LEDs like this one need a resistor to stop them from burning out. Now onto the main components of this kit. You'll see why I say this is one of the easiest pedals you can build. There's only a handful of components you need to solder on. So here's the black PCB where everything's soldered onto. Any pedal kit you buy will have a PCB that looks something like this. You can see that for each component that you need to solder, there's a clearly labelled section such as R1, C1, C2. You can also see the wiring points for the in and out and power supply. Okay, so once you get a kit, the first thing to do is to check all the components off to make sure you've got everything. This is a simple kit, so I'll just run through the components. So that's the resistor. There's only one in this kit. Normally there's quite a few, so you'd have to find the color codes. This is a capacitor. This one's labelled 104, which you can match off against the sheet. I explain how to read all the different codes for these components in the guide on my website. This is another capacitor. There's quite a few different types of capacitors, which you'll quickly learn after you go through a few kits. This is a diode. The important thing with diodes is they have a line on one side because you need to install them in a specific way, which I'll explain later. This is a transistor. Transistors have 3 legs, and you'll see that one side's curved so you can install it the right way. And this kit includes a socket which you use to install the transistor. Some kits will have them and some won't. And then we've got the pot for the volume knob. Now when you solder all your components to the PCB, it helps to keep everything nice and steady. You can either use what is called a third hand, or I use a blob of blue tack or mounting putty. It's cheap and it works really well. Now the best practice with soldering components is to start with the lowest height one and move your way up. The lowest height normally is the resistor, so let's start with that. There's only one of them, so we don't need to worry about color codes. So you bend the legs to try and match it up to the position, and you can see this one says R1. Once you find the right position and bend the legs, you push it all the way through. It should look something like this before you start soldering. Try to keep the components as close to the PCB as you can. In more complex builds, you can either do one component at a time or do a few at a time. Saying as this is a really basic one, I'm just going to do one component at a time and explain it as I go. You can see how I push everything down into the blue tack, which keeps it nice and steady for when I solder. What I'm doing now is tinning the tip of the soldering iron. You melt a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron and then you wipe off the excess. I go into detail on how to solder components and what to look for in bad solder connections in the guide on my website. Here's what your component should look like after soldering. Notice the shiny solder joint that completely surrounds the wire. That's what you're aiming for every time when you solder. If your solder joint looks dull or it doesn't look like this at all, it could cause connection issues, which causes the pedal to fail. Once you're happy with your solder connection, you can trim off the ends of the wire. The next component is the diode. Now remember with diodes that they have to be installed a certain way. Notice the black bar on the side of the diode matches the diagram on the PCB. All PCBs should clearly label which way diodes need to be installed, so double check them before you solder anything. So same as before, you bend the legs and push it all the way through so the diode's pushing right up against the PCB. Double check that you have got it the right way before you start soldering. You can see why I use this blob of blue tack. It helps keep the component pushed up right against the PCB when I solder. Again, every time you solder something, just double check the joints and make sure they look right. They should look shiny and completely surround the wire like this one. The next component is the transistor, and I'll install the socket. The idea with sockets is that instead of mounting temperature sensitive components such as transistors or op amps directly to the PCB, you solder in a socket instead. Then you simply push the component into the socket. This eliminates the risk of overheating the component and burning them out. It also makes it easy if you want to experiment with changing the transistor to a different type, which is something you might want to experiment with if you're building a fuzz pedal. You can see when I mount this transistor that it's sticking out way too high, so I'm just going to trim the legs back so it doesn't stick out as much. Depending on how much room you have in the pedal enclosure, you may or may not need to do this. So here's what it looks like with the socket and the transistor mounted. So onto the capacitors. There's only 2 capacitors in this one, so it's really easy to figure out which one goes where. Some capacitors need to be installed a specific way, but these 2 don't, so it doesn't matter which way I put them in. If a capacitor does need to be installed a certain way, you'll see a little plus sign on the PCB to let you know which side's positive. It's the same thing with this second capacitor. It doesn't matter which way you install it in. If this is going to be the first guitar pedal you're going to build, you might be a bit worried about soldering. But if you take your time, you get the hang of it, and it doesn't take long before you just get into a rhythm. Now the last component on this one is the potentiometer. These are usually installed on the other side of the PCB, so that's why you do everything else first and then you do the PCB. Now what you might notice with this one is that it has metal backing. Now that can be a problem if it shorts out to one of the other components, so I'm just going to stick some black tape on it just to make sure it doesn't short out. Even if it looks like there's plenty of room between the potentiometer and the PCB, it is a good idea to do something like this to prevent any shorts. Now sometimes it's easier to put in all the wires before you solder the pot to the PCB. To prepare the wires, you just need a wire stripper like this one. There's a few different types, but they all do the same basic thing. The basic idea is that they just strip off the plastic at the end of the wire. You can even do this with standard wire cutters with a bit of practice, so don't feel that you have to buy a tool like this. It just makes it a little bit easier. Once the wires are ready, you can start soldering them to the PCB. Looking at this PCB, you can see I have 4 wires to connect: ground, in, out, and 9 volts. Some pedal kits will have more than this, but these 4 are the minimum you're likely to see. While the choice of colours of the wires doesn't really matter, it helps if you stick to a pattern that makes sense. The typical choice is to use red for the 9-volt in and black for the ground wires. If you follow this, you won't ever mix up which is positive and which is ground because it's easy to tell them apart. Once you solder all your wires to the board, it should look something like this. You can see I'm using red for 9 volts, black for ground, green for in, and yellow for out. Now that the wires are all soldered in, I can add the pot. Most pedals will solder the pots to the opposite side of the PCB, which is why they're best left to last. If the pedal you're building uses multiple pots, check the values on the side of each one so you don't mix them up. This pedal only uses one, so it's a simple job. Okay, so once that's soldered in place, this pedal's actually ready to go. This is where they got the name 7-minute fuzz, because you can potentially solder everything up in 7 minutes. Now it might be tempting to mount it in a pedal enclosure right now, but it's a good idea to test the circuit out. Testing it now makes it far easier to find any potential problems. To test your pedal, you need a 9-volt battery, alligator clips, your guitar, an amp, and cables. I'm following the testing diagram included with the kit, and I have a link to it in the guide for this build. You can use this same diagram for testing almost any guitar pedal. It can quickly get confusing with all these wires and clips, so just to explain, I'm starting by connecting the 9-volt end of the battery to the red cable on the pedal. I bought alligator clips in different colours so I can try and match the colours with any wires I'm using to make things easier to understand. Next is to connect all the ground points together. All of these points shown in the diagram connect to the black wire on the pedal and the negative end of the battery. You'll notice the diagram uses a stereo jack for the input, while I'm using a mono jack. With a mono jack, you just connect the ground to the sleeve connection point. So the negative end of the battery connects to the input jack sleeve, or ring if you're using a stereo jack. Then that's connected to the sleeve of the output jack, then that's connected to the ground wire on the pedal. You can see that this quickly gets messy, so just take things one wire at a time. So far I've connected the ground wire from the pedal to the input jack sleeve, and connected that to the output jack sleeve. The last ground connection is to connect the negative end of the battery, but I'll leave that for last when everything else is done. Next, the yellow wire is for the output signal, which connects to the tip of the output jack. You may have noticed that I plugged the cables into the jacks, which makes it a lot easier to clip the alligator clips into position. It's still a bit fiddly and you can see that the clips can easily fall off, so keep a close eye on everything, otherwise you might think that your pedal's not working when it is. The green wire from the pedal is the input signal, which connects to the tip of the input jack. Now with all of this in place, I can connect the negative end of the battery. This closes the circuit and powers up the pedal. Once your pedal circuit's been tested, you can turn your attention to the pedal enclosure. I actually drilled the holes for the pedal first, because I gave the pedal to an artist friend to hand paint. But you can do this before or after you wire up your pedal circuit. If your pedal uses multiple knobs or foot switches, you'll probably use a template to mark the drilling positions. Now this is a simple pedal, so I'm just marking everything by hand. After I mark the center lines on the pedal, I realized it's easier to place tape down first and then mark on that tape, so that's what I recommend doing. The main thing to keep in mind when doing this by hand is that you want to make sure that there's going to be plenty of room inside the pedal for the components. You don't want the jacks on the side to hit against the PCB or the foot switch, so space everything out before you commit to drilling any holes. I'll be drilling holes for the volume knob, the LED, the foot switch, the power supply jack, and the input and output jacks. This is pretty much the bare minimum for any simple guitar pedal. Now the best practice is to use a drill press, but I don't have one, so I'm using a center hole punch to mark the drill positions, which helps the drill bit stay in position. You can see the punch creates tiny little dents in the pedal, which is more than enough for the drill bit to stay steady. Oh, and if you're wondering, there are different pedal enclosure sizes, which I explain in detail on the guide on my website. This pedal is a 1590B size enclosure. I found that measuring the diameter of all the parts before drilling helped me keep in mind what size drill bit to go up to. But if you take it slow, you're not going to have any issues. Some people like to use a stepping drill bit, otherwise you can just start with a small drill bit and work your way up in size like I'm doing. Gradually working your way up in drill bit sizes keeps things under control and you're far less likely to run into any issues. It's also a good idea to clamp your pedal down when you start drilling to prevent it from slipping. Now I'm clearly not doing that, but I am putting a lot of pressure on the pedal with my hand to keep it in place. The plastic bezel for the LED is the smallest hole, so that's the first part that you can see fits. Another thing I should mention is that while I've sped up the footage during this drilling process, keep in mind that I'm working really slow to make sure I don't make any mistakes. You don't want to accidentally drill any hole too big, so you may even want to tape off any finished holes so you know not to keep working on them. It might feel like a slow process to gradually work your way up in drill bit sizes, but it really doesn't take that long. You can see the mini DC jack now fits in position. And I'll skip ahead here because I think the process is pretty clear. Just gradually work your way up the drill bit sizes and keep checking to see if the components fit just to make sure that you don't drill too big a hole. Or if you're using a stepping drill bit, check the size of the hole after each step. The foot switch normally requires the biggest hole, so once this is done, your pedal's complete. If the edges of the holes are rough, just file them down before you move on. Okay, so now we get to the last step, assembling the pedal. This is what I got back from my artist friend. I asked her to come with something trippy and 60s inspired to match the fuzz effect. I highly recommend you put the time in to paint or decorate your pedal in some way before you assemble it. I see so many people in a rush to finish their pedals that they just leave the enclosure unfinished. While it's fine to have a raw looking pedal, there are so many ways you can make it look interesting, as I cover in my DIY guitar pedals guide. You'll likely never get around to adding art on afterwards because you have to undo all of the assembling work. So do it now before you finish your pedal. You can see that I'm just adding all the components one by one. I'm only tightening everything by hand because there's always a chance you need to undo it if something doesn't work or things get a bit cramped. Some people like to solder all the hardware together before mounting them, but this can lead to issues. It might be awkward to try and solder all the wires in a cramped pedal enclosure, but you'll usually end up with a neater build. When you mount the foot switch, the main thing to keep in mind is the direction of the 9 soldering points on the back. Line them up so the holes point up and down as you can see here. This makes it easier to wire up later on. Okay, so now that all the hardware has been mounted, we can add the PCB. You can see in this pedal that the connection points on the power jack sticks out just enough that it presses against the PCB. This is why I said earlier to keep checking before you drill anything to make sure that there's plenty of space between the components. It wasn't an issue for this build as I could just bend the power jack legs out of the way and add more room, but not everything can be bent out of the way, so keep this in mind. Okay, so now that everything's been mounted, we can start soldering. This is the awkward part, and the smaller the pedal enclosure, the more fiddly it gets. To wire a pedal up, you'll need to follow an off-board wiring diagram. There are a few different diagrams based on what options you're using, such as a battery or DC power, LEDs, stereo jacks or mono jacks, and the type of circuit. Okay, so at this point, my camera's battery decided it had enough and it shut down without me realizing it. So I'll have to skip to the end of the wiring and I'll just explain what I did. Now this is a very simple pedal, but pretty much all guitar pedals will have a very similar wiring in how the foot switch and the jacks are wired together. The foot switch wiring might look a bit confusing, but you just need to cut the wires to the right length and follow the diagram. I suggest pausing the video here and try to follow the wires in the diagram with the pedal on the right. Get used to reading diagrams like this and it makes the process a lot easier. You can also see that if you're going to use an LED, you need to add a resistor which stops the LED from burning out. Normally a 4.7K resistor will be enough, but it depends on the type of LED and the power supply used. You might also notice that there's no wires connected to the output jack sleeve. This is because the pedal's enclosure is grounded from the other jack, so it's already connected to both jack sleeves. Some wiring diagrams will leave out a wire to that point, while others add it in just in case. You can always use a multimeter to check connections if you're unsure of anything. Okay, so now that everything's wired up, I can add the back plate to the pedal. You can see that the ends of the foot switch wiring look pretty close to the back, so I'm adding some tape to the back plate just in case to prevent any short circuits. For example, if you test your pedal and it works, then it doesn't work when the back plate's on, that's a pretty clear sign that something's shorting out on the back plate. As I finish up this pedal, hopefully the main steps you need to go through when building any guitar pedal is clear. This pedal has a very simple circuit, but whether you're building a simple fuzz pedal, an overdrive pedal, or any other type of effect, you'll be following the same basic steps. If you connect the power supply or battery and the LED lights up when you press the foot switch, that's a great sign and it shows that at least that's getting power. It's rare to get through a pedal build without any problems, so celebrate any small wins like an LED turning on. Okay, so I'll quickly test this pedal before going through some key points to remember. Okay, so that was the 7-minute fuzz pedal, and you can hear it gives a very basic fuzz tone. Once you learn how to build a simple pedal like this one, you can step it up with more complex builds. After this one, for example, I built a Fuzz Factory clone, which I cover in detail on my website. I suggest checking it out to see what a more complex fuzz pedal is like to build. The chances are that you'll experience some problems when testing your pedal. It can be frustrating, but even if your pedal seems dead, you will figure it out. Check out my guide for pedal troubleshooting tips and steps to follow if something isn't working. Now that you've seen a simple pedal build, check out my video where I walk through building a clone of the iconic Klon Centaur. I go through that build in a lot of detail. The clone I built is from a kit and it's a great pedal to build if you're interested in building something more complex. I hope you enjoyed this pedal build. Check out the guide that explains everything in more detail and subscribe to this channel for more pedal builds and other guitar topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.